Thank you for tuning in to another episode 17 of the Perfectly Incomplete Podcast. I'm your host, Imogene. I'm in the building. I'm lit. Tony's my co-host. She's not here. Keep her in your prayers. She's going through a little something, but she'll be back soon. I've got my son here. He's hanging, but I've got somebody really special in the building today. Y'all might know him as News Now South Carolina. This is this radical dude that goes around harassing the police, but I love him. So he's here. Welcome him. Welcome to the Perfectly Incomplete News Now. But we're going to call him DJ. How about that? What's up, DJ?
I like that. Hey, how you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I'm all right.
How does it feel to be in the NY?
It's my first time. It's different. I tell you that.
You've been having a good time?
I have.
Has he been having a good time, Alex?
I think so. We went out last night, right?
Hey,
had a few drinks. It was cool.
It was fun. Introduced him to a new couple of drinks. It's all right.
A new couple of drinks. Yeah, I heard about that drink. What do you call it?
I wrote it down, actually.
You
give me 2 seconds?
Amaretto sour, and then you got liquid marijuana.
Liquid marijuana, yeah.
I don't know if I'm doing the marijuana thing.
No, it tastes good.
It's
Both,
not bad,
sweet.
actually. It's good.
Yeah,
all right.
Sweet.
But I heard...
It just sounds harsh. It sounds harsh,
yeah.
But I promise it's really good. And it's not like an overbearing alcohol.
Yeah.
It's
okay. I'm so excited you're here. Thank you for being here, guys. Today's podcast is going to be good. I got this dude here, and I thank him for coming all the way from South Carolina, the dirty, yeah. But what I want to talk about is real serious. We're going to talk about some criminal justice issues, and we're going to give you some juice, some food for thought, and hopefully it provokes you to take action. Before I do that, I'm going to turn the mic over to DJ in the building and let him tell you what he does and why he does what he does. Is that all right? Come on, somebody.
That's cool.
That's cool?
That's cool. Amen. Hallelujah. Yeah. Ooh. Okay.
Yo, listen.
So
we're not doing this.
So practically, I mean, in a nutshell, I stand for social. Practically, I won't say in a nutshell, it's going to be drawn out. Social inequality is a big deal in America. And basically what I do is I pinpoint and I point out social inequality. And I don't just say that from a African-American standpoint. It's more of a, because it happens. And that's not something I'm willing to sweep under the rug because I live in it, my kids live in it, and we all live in it. It's part of the world we're in today. But there's a I call it a thin blue line, and that's the line that that law enforcement they live behind, and they put themselves above their job, above their oath, and above their responsibility. And that just doesn't sit well with me. And I think that what I'm doing and what a lot of other guys are doing, a lot of other people that I've influenced to kind of start that movement is point it out. Don't just let it happen. Point it out and say something, because ultimately in every state we're paying these people. And I don't mean to say these people in a disrespectful manner. We pay law enforcement to do a job. And I personally feel like if they're going to take money out of my check to pay these people, then it's my obligation to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And so is it a little unorthodox? Yeah. Because not everybody walks around with a camera or a phone and film police. Some call us a nuisance. Some call us baiters or whatever the case may be. But I've given it my heart and I've given it my all. And I kind of get into why I've laid that foundation so deeply in my heart and in my family, because I've saved a lot of lives. I've had a lot of personnel moved out of police departments who wasn't worthy of the badge. And that's just something that in my heart, I feel like it's needed all throughout America. So I do it, and I encourage everybody. You don't have to get out and be as radical as I am.
Very radical.
But I am. I am that I am.
I love it.
But I do encourage people to challenge police officers and all of our government officials, because a lot of their duties have been just swept under the rug for the longest. So you really can't be mad at them, because it's practice behavior becomes comfortable behavior. Mm-hmm. And so once they've done it for so long, nobody sees wrong in it, and they think that it's just supposed to happen. So that's why I do what I do. I get out, I hold them accountable, and if I gotta say a few cuss words and love them very hard, that's just what I gotta do. But at the end of the day, they understand where I'm coming from, and I understand where I'm coming from, and it's all about education. So that's why I do it.
And I appreciate it. Alex turned me on to your videos. And when I watched and I seen you, you were filming like a police station and
Mhm.
comical people come out there, hey, what are you doing? You can't do this. And you said, sure I can. The Constitution, this is my First Amendment right, and then you had the Fourth Amendment, the right to carry. I saw this, and what I like what you do is because you're filming it on camera, so everybody who's watching, and then you're actually citing the articles from the Constitution that gives you a right to do this. And I'm looking at the police officer's face, like, damn, he knows this. Is it right? I don't know, because I don't know it, and I've seen you just make them. Not that you try to make them look like idiots, but you let them know that you know what you're talking about. And a lot of people don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's great that you do what you do. It's like you expose it. If they're doing what they're supposed to do, that's fine. But if they're not, like in the case, I watched your video where this one guy, my favorite guy, when he was like, you're lucky I'm wearing this uniform.
Which guy was it, Mom?
That
he
guy.
look like?
Tell us, can you just share with us, DJ, you do it to expose, but in the case like that, when someone tries to repress your right to exercise your right, what are the ramifications they experience that stem from you?
So, well, first, I'm going to correct you. The Second Amendment is the right to carry.
Okay.
You said fourth.
My bad.
But it's okay. No, it's all right.
Fourth. What's
But
fourth?
the Fourth Amendment is my right to withhold my identity.
Okay, that's the one. Because that's the one. I'm sorry, y'all. That's the one.
That's
you're
my
big
Fourth
on.
Amendment right.
Okay.
So, specifically speaking of the incident in Columbia, South Carolina, that you're talking about, when I and if anybody hasn't seen that video, I'll shed a little light on that video. I was at the Strom Thurmond building in Columbia, South Carolina, and and it kind of drew me back because with this movement that's kind of sweeping across America as fast as it is about us holding police officers and government officials accountable, they actually had the First Amendment and the DHS, the Department of Homeland Security. They sent out a memo, and it was revised in 2018 about filming when on federal property and where you can film when on federal property.
Mhm.
And it's all under the jurisdiction of the FPS. That's the federal police. And so they had that sign and that memo posted like around the whole building.
Mhm.
So every employee and everybody that goes into that building, you see that sign. It's in every parking lot, every entrance to every parking lot. It's on the door. It's everywhere in the building, and it tells you that you have the right to film when in a publicly accessible area.
Mhm.
The parking lot, the main lobby, the hallways, anywhere that you can physically, publicly get into that doesn't request like personnel access, you can film in there. And so I was outside, and I was actually on the sidewalk. Now, that statute and that law, the sidewalk isn't their property at all, and that's where I was. So the sidewalk is under the jurisdiction of the Columbia Police Department. So that government contracted federal security actually had no jurisdiction on that sidewalk. So they shouldn't have ever came out there to
In the
begin
first
with.
place,
So
right.
he came out, and I try to be respectful because I was brought up to. I know some people say you don't give respect until you receive it, but I was raised to give respect upon approach, and that's how I approach every situation. And I was telling me, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm here. I'll be here for a few minutes, and I'll be out the way. But he insisted on, again, living behind that thin blue line and hiding behind that badge. And so he said, excuse me, they asked me what I was doing, and I told him, I'm getting a few pictures of the building. This is a big monumental building here in our state capital, and I'll be out the way. And he proceeded to tell me, you can't do this, you can't be out here. And I told him, well, first of all, you're wrong in two different ways. Because one, your jurisdiction and your government contract stops at the top of this step right here. You're now on the sidewalk. This is City of Columbia property. You have no jurisdiction out here. You're outside of your boundaries. Please back up. And I tried to be respectful, but then so I practically just laid the law down and told him, this isn't my personal feelings. I'm not being a butthole to you. This is the law. The same law that I live under, you live under also. He proceeded to tell me I was lucky that he was at work.
I saw that.
And I had a moment.
Say that.
And I had a moment. I did, and I usually never let anybody pull me out of character ever. Like I'm always this guy.
You
right
handled
here.
that well, though.
But I mean, like he told me, I was like, he's at work, and I had a moment, and the best, and I let him get the best of me. And I told him, "You take that badge off, I beat your ass out here on this sidewalk." Could I have handled it differently?
He did say that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But in the moment, when you get that kind of response from somebody who has a job to do from a government contract, you expect a certain level of professionalism because even though they're government contracted, they're still paid out the Federal Reserve, which takes money out of our check.
Absolutely.
So they're still tax funded. And so we had that altercation on the sidewalk, and I was actually assaulted out on the sidewalk by another security guard who wouldn't let me leave. And so and again, I can't really speak on it because it's an ongoing thing right now. But it just blew my mind that with the law that blatant in their face, they completely disregard it and act on their ego. And that's something that kills me inside, that we pay these people to do a job and they look at us in our face and say, "You give me your money anyway, but I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. This is what I want to do." And then it's scary because the government backs that. And that bothers me deeply.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that it bothers you, and I love what you do. And I think what bothers me too, any kind of injustice bothers me, but I love what you do because you show, like I said, by exposing, you make it clear that they're not above the law. And I know you can't talk about it, but there is a process that people, the public taxpayers, can engage in to rectify the wrongs when police officers or government officials are breaking the laws, correct?
So how that works, and I know a lot of people who kind of follow politics and understand how this works, they're gonna follow me here. So a lot of videos that I've done can and should be lawsuits, but when you look at it from like the top of the mountain looking down, so let's say I sued little Johnny Boy because Johnny Boy is a police officer, and I was in the police parking lot doing my job, and he came out and tried to restrict the access to my First Amendment, and then illegally detained me for suspicion, which is neither a felony nor misdemeanor. And the Supreme Court has already ruled that suspicion cannot be deemed as a reason to detain someone. And again, that's a different story for a different day. We'll get in that later. So let's say that little Johnny makes me leave, threatened to arrest me if I don't leave, and then threaten me with acts of physical violence while engaged in a constitutionally protected act. There's 3 routes you can take with that. You can sue him until his pants are off. But I don't like taking the suing route because that only takes more money out of our pockets because we still pay them. And the only way he can pay for his attorney is with his paycheck.
Right.
They take his paycheck out of our paycheck.
Right.
I mean, so I'm paying for my attorney, his attorney, and the state attorney.
Right.
I mean, so all that still comes from me. So that's only taking more money out of the taxpayers' pockets. You can get the local news involved. And in most cases like that, local news would jump all over it. It's like the hottest topic right now. They'll jump all over it. And usually, and as I've experienced personally in North Carolina, the local police department will intimidate the local news department to not release that story. They'll find a way to get the DA or the state attorney or whoever may be involved. They will get them to call and threaten them with slander, or you don't know the whole story, and
they got pulled like that.
And they'll intimidate them to not release that story. But if you really want to hammer down on that type of injustice, they respond to media, press, and finances. If you hit them in one of them 3 ways, you'll get what you want.
You'll get their attention.
Yeah. Oh, easily.
And I ask you that because I have a pet peeve here, and that's what I want to talk about, especially to people listening that's local. I'm in Ulster County, Kingston, New York, and I got beef. I've been doing social activism for about 4 or 5 years, and recently I've withdrawn because you have these different organizations. They're supposed to be fighting for social justice, but they're politically motivated and charged. And I'm not into the politics because if you're going to fight for justice, you're going to fight for justice. It doesn't matter who comes to you and presents a problem. If this is what you stand for, you're supposed to do that, right?
Correct.
So let me just, and I got my cards because I don't want to really forget, but I have an issue, and I'm a Black person, a person of color. I've been in the criminal justice system. I've been a detainee, and I've been a corrections officer.
I would have never knew you was Black.
Come
You didn't
on.
tell me, I would have
know
never knew
you
you was
can't
hard to
tell,
tell, right?
right?
It's hard to tell.
Oh, stop.
You had me food. You had
No,
me food.
well, I did. I fool a lot of people because the brothers ain't coming after me no more. It's all these other men
All
of
right, Mom.
color. But anyway, that's
All
like a sidebar, right?
All right.
But I don't mind because I'm not prejudiced at all.
There you go.
I will have dinner with.
All
But
right, Mom.
anyway, but I have an issue. Like I said, I've worked as a corrections officer,
Uh-huh.
and I've been detained in the same facility I worked in. But my issue is mass incarceration. I just despise it, right? And so I want to just present this scenario to you. Here, just in New York State, you know that, and matter of fact, I got the stats right here. Y'all bear with me because I need to read this, right? But without really going there, we have a prison population of like 2.2 million right now.
And that's just in the state of New York.
Yeah, and that's really terrible. And just to say the least, I got it on my cards here. That's due to 97% of federal processes end in plea bargainings, 94% in state bargaining. So that means for everybody that committed federal crimes where they're tried in a federal court, 97% of them have accepted plea bargains. And in the state, that means 94% have accepted plea bargains, right? And those are usually people of color who can't afford an attorney. Now, this is my beef right here. Right here in Ulster County, that's going on. I'm only privy to it because I know people in the community in the hood that are part of this system, and they're being railroaded. I wrote a letter called, Railroad Overload to Railroads. And we gave it that title because I've been talking with a group of people for about 6 or 7 months because I'm looking at how people of color who can't afford a public defender, how they're getting railroaded and accepting these plea bargains. Long story short, this group that I've been talking with, they want to take the politically correct route and have a speak out and all of this. I think that took place last night. Okay. I commend them for trying to do that. I wouldn't have done it that way. You know, my letter was the basis of their action. And I think they had like the leader of the public defender's office. I didn't go. Okay. I heard a lot of people didn't turn out. Who's going to come up and say, I'm caught up in this system? This is what's going, people are afraid, right? So I want to use this platform. Are you still with me? Am I still making sense? But this is my thing right here. Right here in Ulster County, they use those tactics, the public defender and the state attorney. They work together regardless of what anybody says. When you come into the system and you can't afford a lawyer, from the moment you're in jail, they're coming to jail like right before that 45th day, before your speedy trial. They're using intimidation tactics to intimidate people. And a lot of stuff, people are sitting in jail for crimes they really cannot be prosecuted for, but they're sitting in there so they can build cases. I know this because I know some people in this system, right? So let me just get to where I'm going. My issue is with the public defender's office. They have all of this money for the state attorney, whoever they're representing. And you know, the state, they just want to prosecute because we know it's a big economic system. If you think about policing and prison, it was all about social control and economics. And jails ain't nothing but big factories and stuff like that, right? So I'm just going to get to where I want to go, and then I want to ask you this. So I know that people right here in Ulster County that have committed a crime, you're supposed to be innocent until you're proven guilty. I know people where the public defender has stepped into jail to visit them, intimidating them into waiving their speedy trial so they can try to build a case, trying to get them to take a plea bargain. And then when they decide, I'm not taking a plea bargain. Why should I take a plea bargain for something I didn't do? You know, but because the big thing is there's not enough money in the public defender's office. But these people go through this process. Honestly, they don't get due process because you can't really help your case while you're in jail. But then when you get out, the people get out and they're providing evidence for the public defender. Oh, that don't matter. That don't help you. I've heard this happen to people. And then they end up getting 2 or 3 different lawyers all in the same case, losing time that they could be preparing for their case. So what I'm saying, what I've said in a lot of detail is that the public defender system or the court system in Ulster County, probably in a lot of other places, is just rigged, and individuals do not get a fair due process of law. Specifically in Ulster County, New York, people of color that cannot afford a lawyer do not get a fair due process of law, and I have a problem with that. Unfortunately, the DA, he's the top gun. I've been in that courthouse where I was treated like I was a piece of shit. Do you understand? They can subpoena you people and make you do stuff. I was in there just conducting some business, not really auditing, but checking some stuff out. And they treated me like crap. I went to the clerk. I'm like, who do I talk to make a complaint? I don't know. I'm talking to different people, juror commission. They don't know. You mean to tell me all the people in this courthouse, nobody can tell me where I go to make a grievance, So long story shorter, I go online and I Google it. I'm reading about the powers of the district attorney. He's or she is the top gun because they can be appointed. And really, there is no grievance. So I'm asking you, since everybody should adhere to the law, whether you're a government employee or you're not, that goes for a public defender, a district attorney, all of them, they are not God. And they should answer to someone in this system, especially right here in Ulster County and other places in the world. The United States is not operating in the benefit. They're not representing people who can't afford lawyers the way they're supposed to. They're supposed to defend them and not work to prosecute them so they can get stars and stripes or whatever they get. So my question to you is, everybody knows about mass incarceration. The awareness is there. I reached out to people in this community. They couldn't get on board for whatever. They wanted to do a speak out. Good job did the speak out. They want to be politically correct. Forget being damn politically correct. Do you understand? Our families are being broken up because our fathers are being sent to prison, because they're trying to get numbers and stuff like that. And I'm just really tired of it. So I'm asking you, what can we do as a people, since we paying their salaries and all of that? You got a DA, he's God. What can we do to make them say, hey, we're sick of this mass incarceration. We're sick of this disproportionate number of people of color being just incarcerated, getting outrageous sentences and stuff like that. What do we do? How do we hold that little niggarachi accountable, he or she, for exercising their powers in a way that's tainted and in favor to people that look like them?
Well, first I'm gonna apologize for your frustration. I can feel it
I'm
personally.
I'm just
I
passionate.
get it. No, I get
She
it.
went on a rant.
And I know I was talking, but I had
love
to
it.
tell the story.
No, but honestly, it's like your mom tell you growing up, you never judge a book by its cover. I tell people this all the time. It's easy to sit on your porch and talk about your neighbors, but it's damn hard to go knock on your neighbor's door and ask what's wrong. And that's what's wrong with America. We sit on our stoop and we look and point and we talk, and that's all we do. But nobody ever wants to put their foot in and actually try to change. And I tell people, if you really want to be a part, because to work your way up to the DA, obviously you can't just go straight to the DA and say, hey, listen, this is what you're doing wrong. You fix it, now you're fired. Nobody can do that.
Right.
It just
Doesn't happen.
Right.
You start in city and town hall meetings. You start there. That's where I tell people, if you have a problem with your local police department, if you can't catch the chief there, go to the next local town or city hall meeting. Go there. You have to be able to voice your opinion there because that's the problem. That's the purpose of them.
Mhm.
You go there. If you can ever get in contact with the mayor, and it's usually always via email the mayor. I don't give a damn if you got to email the mayor once every 30 minutes. Make your voice heard. But it's so easy to just sit back and point fingers and tell one person to tell the next person to tell the next person, this is what's wrong with our county, this is what's wrong with our city. I don't like it. What should we do? You get 150 people in the room and they're all asking the same question. What should we do? Nobody gets anywhere.
Right.
But you take that same 150 people and go down to the city hall meeting, or you take the same 150 people and go to a town hall meeting, they're gonna hear 150 people. I promise. They're gonna hear, and so it's before you let it affect you without doing something about it. Put your foot in the water and try changing it, and let your failures change you first, because it'd be a waste of your time to let something that you physically can't control affect you, because you just waste your time there.
Right.
But to actually put yourself in that water and try changing it, and then let your failure drive you then. But I don't think it's fair to yourself or to anybody to just sit on the outside and just point fingers.
And no, I'm not. I'm saying pointing fingers.
I get what you're saying though, but I'm saying as far as you want your voice heard and you're not agreeing with how the system works,
I don't agree.
put yourself a part of the system then.
And like I said, I have been a part of that same system where I have, when I got locked up, I did do the crime for the most part. Okay. So, you know what I'm
Jesus.
saying? I was just lucky.
Jesus.
You know, I just got to keep it real. I'm going to be honest. But as far as I'm saying, I'm not pointing fingers. I am. Because if we done having conversations for 6 and 7 months, you don't need a rocket scientist to tell you this. You can pick up the newspaper and you read, and the number speaks for themselves.
They do, but the problem with the numbers is not enough people talk about them numbers. I mean, let's just be honest. So
I
the numbers
agree.
do speak for themselves.
But they do here. I'm saying in this county here, this is a very progressive state. And in this county, we do have the freedom to assemble and lobby. And all of that is being done here. All
and
of
that's
that.
true. But what I would challenge you is if you know you have that freedom and you know you have that right, then make that 30 minutes or the hour that y'all do assemble, make it worth it.
But this, and you're right. But what I'm saying, I don't even do that anymore because I've done it. Like I've held signs in the snow, in the rain. I've gone to Albany and lobbied my senators, and I've done all of that stuff voluntarily because I'm a good citizen, you know, and I've called people, you know, they play the politician game. And I guess that's what politics is, the art of influence. You bargaining and what, that's not my lane, okay? To be playing games with people's lives. That ain't my, you know, so I'm not judging people. Like I say, I speak on this because it affects us individually, but collectively as well. And everybody's talking about it. The awareness has been created. So it's time to do something. And from what I do understand, there was a speak out last night, and there are some things that are in motion. So I'm not saying that nothing is happening. Like from what I understand now here in the county, the public defender who's in charge, his name is Andy Kossover. He's a part of a coalition that's trying to go to the governor and sit down and push legislation. Like they have the new law coming out about discovery, whereas, you know, you have to get it within a certain amount of time. Before in New York, you didn't have to get nothing until it's time to go to trial, you know? So you're accusing somebody of whatever and you're offering them a plea. They don't even know what kind of evidence you have. And by law, they don't have to show anything. So that's being fixed, and that's good. And from what I understand also, that now if people are incarcerated for misdemeanors, as long as they're nonviolent, there's no bail set and they don't have to go to jail. So that's a good thing. And then I do understand, like from that meeting, that the public defender did acknowledge that that office doesn't get a lot of money. So there's shortage of attorneys, and it's just hard. They're actually recruiting now public defenders that are in it because they have purpose and not just doing it because they can't get a job elsewhere. So I'm not saying nothing is being done, but this thing with this mass incarceration and this system that innocent people on many occasions are being sent to prison. A lot of them innocent, a lot of them guilty, you know, but because of the way this system is designed. And I know it's a process, but we done talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. So how do, you know, and you say participate in the process. I tried to be in the building to find out how to file a grievance. Everybody that works in that courthouse, I went to like 3 or 4 different offices in there. And no one could tell me. I called on the phone and inquired. They shut me down. I left messages, 2 or 3 messages. The district attorney never returned my call. Never returned my call. But yet I'm paying my taxes, right? And you got your nice salary. I don't know how much he or she makes, but is that any way to treat me? I'm just trying to exercise my rights.
You know that's public information. You can go for your request there. That's all public record.
Yeah, and I don't really care because I don't really care what they make. The point is, like when you audit police, you say they're public servants. They're to serve and protect us, the public. And so it is for this court system, supposedly was created to serve us to execute justice for all men according to the Constitution. And if I'm not getting the same justice that somebody else is getting, and you don't even want to hear me, and you're allowed to get away with that, it's something. And so lobbying is not going to fix that.
It's not, but you can't give up on it either.
I won't. You know that I won't.
You can't give up on it. But again, it's like racism in America. You're not born racist. You're taught how to be racist.
Absolutely.
And that's, I say that about our corrupted judicial system.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it has just been practice behavior that's been passed down from DA to DA to DA to DA.
Yeah.
So when you see it for so long, who tells you it's wrong?
Right. And
Nobody.
And
so
you're used to it. Yeah.
And so when you're challenged on it, you think that somebody just doesn't agree with your authority. And that's what's wrong with a lot of political powers in America is they've been doing things wrong for so long that when somebody push back and say, "Hey, that's not right," they throw a hissy fit. We won't
Yeah.
talk about the man in the White House, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
He's been doing things wrong for so long and speaking so stupidly for so long. He doesn't see a problem with it. So when somebody pushes back and tell him, "Hey, listen, but you got to watch what you say," now he's mad because you don't respect his authoritative position. But it's like just because you've been doing it for so long doesn't mean. I mean,
So long, yeah.
just because you've been doing it for so long don't mean it's not wrong.
Right.
And that's what's wrong. And I think that's where the city here that you live, where the county that you live in here, I think that's what's wrong from the DA down is that whether they have a corrupted mindset or not, or whether or not they're just kind of being strung along because a lot of people are scared to correct other people in fear of their job. I had an instance down in Florida and even in North Carolina where an officer knew another officer was wrong, and instead of saying, "Hey, buddy, listen, he has his right. You don't violate that. You
Right.
let him be."
Right.
Their pride gets in the way or fear of their job because for fear of their job, they won't say anything.
Right.
But I personally know of 3 officers who's been beaten and tortured by other officers, and I know one out in the Midwest that was killed because he publicly corrected another officer, and it made the department look bad, and they fired him, and he turned up dead. I mean, and so that's
Wow.
and there's a lot of secrets in those departments that we don't know about, and so
Right.
that's why a lot of people don't bend and move when the general public address certain situations because they have other people that they have to answer to.
Right.
And that DA may owe another DA or a certain prosecutor or a certain sheriff. He may owe them something. And so
Right.
there may be a lot of passes that he has to give out that. And so he may hear what you're saying and say, "Yeah, but what she's saying goes against what I owe this guy
Right.
here." So
It's the game of
and
politics.
yeah, I mean,
Wow.
that's all it is. And as long as there's money involved, you can never win the game of politics.
And
Long as there's money involved. And the crazy part is the money that's involved is your money.
it's yeah. And
That's
that's
what's
what
crazy.
and I agree because I understand that process and I understand it. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't still you represent me, whether you're my Senate, you're my congressman, or whatever. You guys play in politics, but like you say, we're the people. And if we're saying to you, this is a problem, we put you here. You're supposed to address this. So I'm one person and I will voice out. Like I wrote a letter, I sent it out. Do you think I got a response to the people that I wrote it to? Never got a response. That's okay. And I have to pick my battles because I'm doing other things, but I do try to support behind the scenes. But I didn't even get the courtesy of them acknowledging receipt of my letter saying we got it, whatever. Like I said, it was the basis for whatever they went on and coordinated and did what they wanted to do. And that's cool. I spent like 6 months collecting this information, researching, providing this information to really, you know, for us to move forward collectively as a people. And granted, you can't get mad with people because people don't stand up. But I'm just saying, I get tired when I go out in the neighborhood. I get tired of hearing people complain
Mhm.
about all this and we get treated like this and we get treated like that. I'm like really sick of it. Do something about it. Half the people, I ain't gonna say half the people, I just asked the question, do you know there's people out here that don't even know their constitutional rights?
And that's what I was telling you earlier. That's where America as a whole has failed us because they don't teach us enough about that in school. And if you want to learn, you got to take it upon yourself. But no 13-year-old kid is going to walk up to a teacher, or no, for hell, not even a 15-year-old kid in 10th grade is going to walk up to a teacher and say, "Hey, you know what? I kind of want to learn about the U.S. Constitution." No,
Right.
no 15-year-old kid, that's not their agenda. And if
Right.
it is their agenda, it's because they probably have a politic in the house already. I mean, so
Mhm.
so there's no feeding system in our schools that teach us about that kind of stuff. And so when you grow up, I can guarantee you right now, we walk out in the street and ask 10 people to tell us what their First Amendment right is.
They don't know.
Maybe 3 of them will tell us.
Yeah.
And that's the crazy thing because you were saying that. I remember yesterday, I think it was, or 2 days ago. Yesterday, you were on our way up. You were saying how they tell us that our most important years in life is from kindergarten to 12th grade, and you're gonna learn the most. Like that's the most
that's like the
important
most
time.
informational years of our life.
Yeah.
That's where we practically learn the basis of life.
Yeah, but what happens when you don't learn what you need to learn in order to get by in life through those years? Once you graduate, then you kind of shut down and you're just like, all right, whatever. I'm not trying to, a lot of people, I'm not trying to absorb anything else, you know?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
got what I need.
and well, here's just what I think. And again, I'm only human, so I'm subject to human error. But this is what I think. When you learn what you learn in kindergarten through 12th grade, and then you graduate, you go to school and you pick your major, your focus now is that major because you know eventually that's gonna be my paycheck.
Mm.
You kind of shut down to learning other things because you're trying to get through college as quick and cheap as possible. And so if you don't learn it in high school and it's not your major, where do you fit in time to learn that?
Mm.
There's no time. And so our justice system and the Constitution and the amendments and things like that I think are just as important as credit. We don't take the time to emphasize the importance of those things. And so like now, we're going to touch on the mass incarceration of black people. And I don't want to just
People
like,
of color.
yeah, I mean, and well, I say black people because I call it like it is.
Right.
Well,
Like,
but Hispanics,
I call a
they're,
spade a spade.
they're
I mean,
included
yeah.
in that too.
Well, or I can say minorities.
there you go.
I put it that way.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of them are wrongfully arrested simply because they don't know their rights.
I know.
I can't,
Yeah.
and again, we spoke about this in the car. Never in the history of my 26 years do I know of a cop walk up to a passenger of a car
right.
that was speeding, get the driver's ID, which is lawful, walk up to the passenger and say, hey, you know what, buddy? Your Fourth Amendment right allows you the right to tell me no right now,
Right.
but I want to see your ID. But
Right.
again, you don't have to show me that. Not one cop
Right.
will ever in the history of mankind tell that passenger that, because all I've ever heard is, let me see your ID.
Right.
Why? Because I want it. Why? Because you have to give it to me. And then they feed you this bullshit here. Because you're required to identify yourself when asked by law enforcement. It's the biggest lie in America.
Right.
Even in stopping ID states, they have to give you reasonable, articulable
Mhm.
suspicion of a crime
Right.
for you to present ID. And if they can't articulate that,
You don't
you
have
give
to.
them the burden and tell them, do your job.
Right.
But again, not many people know that. Or if they do know that, they're
They're afraid.
bootlickers and they still give them what they want. And that's why, and again, that's where that practice behavior comes in at, because as long as it's being done, it's being practiced.
Right.
And so that's my problem that I have with America. But again, how do we change a broken school system that's been that way since before we were ever thought of?
Right.
I mean, so it's hard to fix 2,000 years of wrongdoing
Mhm.
in my 26 years of living. I mean,
Right.
but I just don't agree with that. And I don't agree with the way that police officers know that they're doing wrong, and they know that they can that we fall victim to it because we don't practice that part of our life enough.
Right.
Like I didn't learn about the U.S. I mean, I kind of learned about it in law ed, but they don't break down each amendment. They tell you
Learn the preamble.
yeah, or like
Yeah.
in history, they teach you about that, or the founding fathers, or the Emancipation Proclamation. Like none of that. I've never in my life had somebody walk up to me and say, "Tell me who signed the Emancipation Proclamation. I'm gonna blow your brains out."
Mhm.
Never in my life.
Wow.
Never in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now here I'm being held subject to teaching people their constitutional rights, and my most influential years of my life, I never heard of them.
Right.
And I think America as a whole needs to do better in teaching them that. But they know that there's power in unity. If they teach every American their rights,
Yeah.
we take our power back from the government. But it's crazy because we have a set of laws to protect us from the government, but
Right.
the government is scared for us to do that. And that don't make sense to me.
It's a.
That's like me giving you $5 telling you better not spend no money.
But
That's
and-
backwards.
Yeah.
But what you said, and if people don't get nothing else, I say it over and over in different ways. The same problems that the government pretends or tries to solve are the ones that they have created.
Right.
So it's like it's always chasing your tail. And I know you can't take 2,000 years and just change it like that. But when do we? It's gonna be a journey. But when do we do it? When I mean, like you say, unity. That's how it's gonna happen. You're in South Carolina. I'm here in New York. I'm just one person. This little platform. If I can tell somebody, okay, I'm doing my part. You're doing a big part. And I mean, because I don't think I can do you. You're confronting the police, and you can't be a coward to do that.
You can't.
Because-
I mean, and if you, it's kind of like correcting your kids, and it's like you gotta have a backbone to be a parent, because
Mhm.
if not, your kid's gonna run all over you. And it's the same way with law enforcement. You gotta have a backbone,
Yeah.
or if not, they'll run all over you. And police officers aren't used to people pushing back on them. Like, and I've experienced that firsthand. And
Yeah.
I've had guns
I have
drawn
too.
over me. I've had
Yeah.
officers threaten to shoot me, and
I saw the one where the dude had his hand on his pistol the entire time, and you're just
That
like,
was my
I don't
buddy
feel.
there.
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
was my buddy there.
Yeah.
I was hoping he pulled it, but that's a different story. The thing is, but that's the thing, and to kind of touch on that video, the problem with that video was, like, he didn't like the fact that I was open carrying, but he was open carrying.
I saw that.
In the open carry state. And I was like, so you're going to tell me I'm wrong for doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
but you're doing the same
Yeah,
thing.
I
So
saw
we're
that
literally
one.
looking in the mirror right now. So what you do is you get dressed every day and say, this is what I'm about to go out and do, but you can't do it. That don't make sense to me.
Right.
So you're going to tell me, and then this where he shot himself in the ass at. He told me, the problem isn't you filming. The problem is you open carrying.
And you're
I said,
I saw that.
and I was like, so the
scared.
problem is a constitutionally protected act. That's what you're telling me. So you got a job in a state that allows the practice of the Second Amendment. And the Second Amendment is our right to bear arms.
Right.
And I can open carry in that state as long as I'm not a felon. And I was open carrying. He told me the problem was the fact that I was abiding by the law. In a nutshell.
Yeah.
That's what he told me. He was like, no, he said, no, the problem is you have a gun. The problem is I'm abiding by the law. I'm like, and people tell me again, you're just out to make cops look stupid. I didn't tell him to say that.
He
Right.
took that bait, right?
He chose to say that.
Right.
Like I can't
Right.
control what comes out of that man's mouth.
Yeah.
But those are the words that came out of his mouth.
Yeah.
The problem isn't you filming. The problem is the fact you got a gun.
Right.
The problem is I'm abiding by the law. That's what you're
Right.
telling me right now. So you're intimidated by somebody doing the same thing you're doing. The only difference between me and you is you're government contracted. I'm not. You have a
Absolutely.
badge on and I don't.
Right.
But and this is where people have to get and I get a lot of innocent Black people have died. And again, I'm not singling out any other race, but the truth of the matter is, in America, Black people are dropping like flies at the hands of uneducated officers. That's just the truth.
Right. Not well trained, you know?
And it's like I told him, you have every right to defend yourself,
Mhm.
but so do I. The Supreme Court has already ruled that illegal detention and illegal arrest can and will be resisted. The officer that case was brought on lost his life.
Mm.
Don't be that guy.
Right.
You have no reason to pull your gun. You have no reason to detain me. It can and will be resisted. But a lot of people push back and say, oh man, they'll kill you. Just do what they say. No,
Right.
because I have the same option to defend myself.
Right.
So it's either my life is going to be lost or his life going to be
Right.
lost.
Right.
But nobody has to reach that platform if you just respect my rights.
Right.
Right.
But again, I'm the bad guy because I put him in a tight spot.
That's because you're the exception to the rule and you're
That's
not
what I'm
going
saying.
with
Like,
the masses.
like I'm the bad guy because I put him in a tight spot. I'm
Right.
like, but if he puts me in a tight spot, I'm
It's
supposed to
okay.
just do what he says,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
it's okay because that's his job.
Yeah.
But I tell him, you pull your gun, you better not miss because I'm gonna shoot you in your face because I have that right. I'm
Right.
not threatening your life. I'm promising my safety.
Right.
But again, that can be taken as a threat because that's just how they hide behind gray area
Right,
laws, and
right.
it's all BS.
Right.
That's all
And
it is.
and it's sad because unfortunately a lot of people in the world or America specifically aren't that educated. So like it's like people don't understand that cops genuinely are supposed to work for, like, they work for us, you know. Their jobs are to protect and serve, you know. And it's like, I don't know, it's backwards to me, man. Like
It's real
the
backwards,
way
and
things.
and again, this is something that y'all have heard before, but this is the only analogy that I can give, and it blows my damn mind. Cosmetologists are in school for 2 years, some a
Mhm.
little longer, to put makeup on your face.
Mhm.
They give a guy a badge, a gun, and a taser after 16 weeks in the academy and say, go
Mhm.
rule the world.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That blows my mind. The same
crazy,
gun
man.
that the government is trying to take from us,
Right.
they give to an uneducated man or an uneducated woman and say, go govern the law.
And they're young people because I know when I went
They're
to
not young
crazy.
people, they're young idiots.
Yeah, but what I'm
That's
saying,
just the truth of
Right.
the matter.
I went
They're
through
idiots.
I went through the corrections academy, right? However long it was. Police officers had like an extra block that we had. They got law. They got like 2 extra weeks of law training. IRSC, that's like the biggest one in the States, right? And here you have 19-year-olds.
Shout out IRC.
Yeah, shout out IRC. Here you have 19-year-olds. They're strapped with guns and automatically the chest goes up like this,
Yeah.
right? And I saw so many people in that jail standing behind that little badge. And when they came up in the hood, they got beat down.
Yeah.
And they deserved it.
That's the truth of the matter. I mean,
You know?
but like,
Kudos for y'all who whooped their butts. That's what's up.
But like, I push back on the fact of, they tell cosmetologists and people who want to go to school, or like, even if you want to learn how to weld, you're in school for 6 to 8 months. If you want to learn how to drive trucks, you're in school for a while. But they give you a gun after 12 to 16 weeks.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That it blows my mind. And so I was I was doing a lot of research. 'Cause I spent a lot of my time studying. And so the original law book in America is about is from off this table, it sits about that high. Of
Wow.
every law written in America, it
Mhm.
sits about that high. Nobody in the history of America knows every law in that book.
No.
But every law in that book can be practiced.
Right.
Every law in that book can be practiced. And so if there's a law saying that I can do this or I can do that, or if there's a law that's backed up by a statute or a penal code saying I can do this, I can do that. If Lil Bo Peep hasn't seen that and he sees me practicing that, he thinks I'm wrong because he's
Right.
never
Because
seen
he
it.
don't know.
And again, and that's right. So do you blame the police officer or the education system? You blame the education system because I think the police academy all across America has failed America because they just push these kids out because of the shortage of
Police.
LEOs. They just
Yeah.
push these kids out. But it's like, I don't see them pushing out brain surgeons because we need them. I don't see them pushing out the cure for cancer because we need it.
Right.
I don't see them pushing other shit out like that, but they
Right.
push out these law enforcement officers and just say, hey, listen, I need you in this city. We're short, and then 2 months later, Lil Bo Peep kills an innocent person because he was concerned for his life. I mean, it's like if he's not ready to be a police officer, don't do it. Because it's not fair for y'all or even for me back in South Carolina to feel unsure of my safety because there's a new law enforcement in town. It's not fair. And so they give these kids the most dangerous weapon in America at the age of 18 to 21 or how old they may be after they graduate from the academy and say, here, go run the streets, go govern the streets, but they don't even know the laws that govern.
Right.
And and I guess foundational for those, you probably know this, but when you look at the history of policing, and if you look at it now, who's actually making these laws? These are that 1% big business people that's putting money in these legislatures' pockets, and it's always been about economics and social control, and that's what it's about. Like you mentioned today, we're riding police officers. They're supposed to protect and serve. They shouldn't be setting up speed traps trying to catch you speeding.
Because they want to generate revenue.
Yeah, and that's what
they want to do.
and that's what it's about, money.
That quota that they have to reach every month, I think is BS.
Yeah,
It's BS.
and you just randomly stopping people. They stopped me about 6 weeks ago, asking me for my ID and all the stuff they asked me for. I couldn't produce it, and then he was like, "Well, never mind. Well, why the hell are you stopping me? If I couldn't produce what you asked me for, why are you stopping me? Because you just messing with me." But I don't wimp up. I don't get crazy. I'll say, "Watch my hands," because whatever. But no, you're not gonna punk me.
Well, see, I don't watch my hands. I tell him watch his hands
because you strapped. So
well, it's not even about being strapped with my gun at the time. It's just being strapped with the knowledge that I have to let officers know that even though you're doing a traffic stop, I'm still in control of the situation because you work for me. You got a job to do, but you still work for me. So I'm in control of the situation. And the government fears a united nation. The government fears it because there's nothing to do about it. If everybody in America knew the control that they had over the local police department,
I know
we literally could take America by storm. But they're either scared or uneducated.
Yeah.
And this is something that kind of irks my nerve too. And this is the most embarrassing part of being police officers. There's a few police officers back home where I'm from, and I won't call their name for my safety and theirs. But I went to school with a guy that they used to date a girl, and her husband is a police officer, and so the whole city of Anderson failed. My buddy, we filed suit on the probation office down in Anderson because they didn't understand what the First Amendment was. He was inside the probation office filming, which is completely legal.
Mm-hmm.
They physically pushed him out of there, and he was like, "You know what? It's got to be done." He sued the probation office for an undisclosed amount. I won't put his business out there like that. And so now the whole city of Anderson knows what the First Amendment was. So let's rewind back to the beginning of that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement should know. They swear under oath to uphold and protect the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
The First Amendment to the Constitution is my right to press, my freedom of speech, my right to assemble, all that good stuff. So if you swore under oath to uphold and protect the Constitution, but you got sued for violating somebody's constitutional rights, that's embarrassing.
Yeah,
that's the most embarrassing thing ever. That's like failing the test with a cheat sheet beside you.
Right.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing. So it's embarrassing to all these police departments that you swear under oath to uphold and protect the Constitution, but then you go out and violate somebody's constitutional rights. Like, that's the most embarrassing. Like, it tells the chief, it tells the sergeant, it tells the lieutenant, it tells every cop under them tells the mayor of that city, you suck. You've hired all these people
Mhm.
and swore them in under oath to do a job that they look and say, I don't give a shit about that oath.
Right.
I don't. And it's embarrassing. And I feel bad for the city of Anderson because they've been sued in such an embarrassing manner that now they give auditors the third degree. Oh, they're just baiting people, or they try to goad police officers into violating their rights. I can't make you do anything. It's
Right.
either you know your job or you
Or
don't.
you don't.
I want you to touch on that because to go along with that, like even with what you do, we were talking in the car and I was asking you why you do what you do and X, Y, and Z, and you were just explaining about it's not about money and X, Y, and Z. I want you to kind of expound on that.
So there's a lot of lawsuit money on my YouTube. And when I say a lot, I mean there's a lot of lawsuit money on my YouTube, but money doesn't drive me. I mean, and that's not saying I'm just some rich King Tut, because that's far from the case. But I don't think hitting their pockets is gonna save a life. Like, will it teach that officer a lesson? Yeah. Will it humiliate that police department?
Mhm.
Yeah. Will it embarrass that government entity? Yes,
Probably.
of course. But no check is gonna bring back a loss that's been a life that's been lost because of that, because of uneducated officers.
Right.
And I don't want to take the financial route unless it is inevitably needed. But I don't think hitting them financially is worth it, because all they'll do is fire that officer and hire a new one. And in 5 years, it's gonna happen again because they're gonna get comfortable with
Right.
what they've been doing. It's gonna happen all over again, and that's gonna take more money out of taxpayers'
Right.
pockets.
Right.
But I do believe in public embarrassment. I do. I really do. It's like I mean, because think about it this way: when you're a kid, mom snatched you up in Walmart. First thing you do is look around and see who saw it.
Right.
That's first thing. I mean, because it's
Right.
pride at that point.
Right.
Your pride is ridiculous. You get snatched up in Walmart by your mama. First thing you do is look around and see who saw it.
Yeah.
That's the way I think that's the way government officials look at it. You make them, you publicly humiliate them. And that's, I mean, and I'm not like boasting about it, but I think that's what posting my videos on YouTube does.
Mhm.
It puts it on a platform where everybody can see your idiocy of the law.
Right.
Like everybody can see it. So now it's not just me and you sitting here talking. The whole world's going to see how
Right.
you have failed at doing your job.
Right.
And so the city that I work in that day, the whole city should be put on notice that they're paying tax dollars to an idiot. And they either need to sign a petition to get him out of there,
Mhm.
or whoever was in that city doing that audit that day needs to sue and request that, you know what? I don't want money from y'all. I want him removed from his position. And we have that legal right to petition that. And I just don't think it's fair to always file lawsuits like that, because that just takes that takes a lot more money out of our pockets when it really doesn't solve that incident right then and there. I mean, is it gonna bring awareness to the situation? Yes, but I think there's other ways to get them involved, and that's why I don't always take the financial route.
The funny thing, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The funny thing is, when you were talking about public embarrassment, how you're big on that when it comes to officers and that not doing their job. The funny thing is, obviously, they hate that. Like they hate to be publicly embarrassed, but they don't think twice to publicly embarrass other people. Like when you're throwing people on the ground and unlawfully, right? And you're just doing all of these things and it's being recorded or whatever the case may be, and they don't think twice for that, but when it happens to them, obviously they feel some type of way. Like it's
That's why I do it.
it's
You
crazy.
know, and
That's why I do it. I don't feel bad about it at all. And the thing is, it's not me that's doing the embarrassing. They embarrass themselves. Because if you call me, if you say I'm the difficult one, or I'm the one that caused a problem, if me quoting law causes a problem in America, then you need to reevaluate your citizenship.
Right.
yeah,
If you call
I'm
me
there.
if you call me the problem in America because I'm holding these guys accountable, you're part of the Donald Trump problem
Right.
in America. You like if America's not that great to you, get the hell out.
Right.
It's not hard, I promise you. Buy a visa, move to Mexico,
Yeah.
never come back.
Right.
It's not hard, I promise. But and like it's a lot of people from Anderson, where I'm from, that tells me, oh, you're just doing this to get a reaction. And this is where it gets personal to me. I go out and hold police officers accountable, and you tell me you want a reaction, but you ain't got a problem sitting your ass on the bathroom sink, taking the picture sideways, talking about my hair getting long. But you want attention then, right? But it's
Right.
okay for you.
Right.
It's all right for you to do it then, right?
Right.
Or you take all these flashy pictures with your boobs halfway out and you
Right.
want likes and attention. That's okay for you because what I'm doing don't apply to you.
Right.
You're stepping on somebody's toes right now.
But when you look at somebody else's life and say, hey, you just want a reaction out of them, go clean your bathroom sink off.
Right.
Before you come talk to me about
Right.
dirty.
I mean, you feel me? Like
I get what you're saying.
that's what I'm saying. Like people don't want to accept the shit in their life.
Right.
They're quick to point out somebody else's in their life.
Yeah.
And like that's why I really like. That's why I'm glad I moved away from home, because a lot of those people there, like when I got back on social media and started posting these videos I do, a lot of people that I wouldn't say I grew up with, but a lot of people that I know that I've had like personal connections to, you know, they tell me, oh, he just want attention. He just doing this for views on YouTube. He just doing this for this. Like he's just like, it's like you have every reasoning you feel like I'm doing this except for the right reason. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do.
And because you want to. How about
And
that?
I will, of course, and I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it because I want to. But when you talk about it from a political standpoint, because everybody wants to be politically correct,
Oh,
these guys are wrong, and it takes me to get out here and raise awareness to tell them that they're wrong. But now I'm causing a problem. Why do you even walk in there with a camera? People don't do that all the time. That's your life.
because
Right.
you're not
Man, but-
people.
Right.
Again,
It's,
it goes in this ear and out the other one. I don't
You know,
have no mind.
you
But a
know-
lot of those girls, when I made that analogy, they hated it. I do what I do for attention because I want a few views on YouTube. But you don't mind disrespecting yourself and the woman that your mother raised you to be by putting your ass on social media because your face ain't pretty enough. But that's a different story. I'm sorry.
but you're giving value. You know,
That's a different story.
before we wrap up, I want to touch base on like the awareness with policing, and you know, you're aware of all the civilians being killed by police officers, and you know, they find that nothing was wrong. They did take, and I will give this town credit. They do. You have some people that try to be proactive, bam, bam, with forums and reaching out. But I've sat in them, and the concept to be proactive with it, police engaging the community, and diversity was a big issue. And so I know I've spoke with key players, you know, trying to let's learn about diversity, let's embrace it. But I tell you, I don't know, I haven't been down there lately, but I can walk in a building and tell if this is really an inclusive environment because you're going to welcome me when I come in here. And when I come in here and all I see is white people on the wall, all the judges since the beginning of history, you know, that is the way it is. You know, people like, oh, Imogene, you're right, like black and white. No, I'm very attuned to that. Or when I go in someplace, especially and I've brung this to the chiefs. You know, we're cool, we talk, and I've watched their training. But when I sit in their training at the academy and they're watching videos that are outdated, and I bring that to your attention that it's outdated, and I don't know if they're still watching it now, but I would like to think if I'm operating a business or a nonprofit, something that's supposed to benefit the public, that the public is paying for, and I'm out of compliance, and you have someone tell you that was my expertise, I'm telling you, and you don't fix it, it's something wrong with that. And I take it personal because, granted, yeah, I'm a veteran. I took an oath for the United States Constitution. You know what I'm saying? That I would do this and do this. And we're all supposed to be created equal. And I see how you're treating people. We can go and sacrifice and serve our country, right? We can do all that. You can take me from my home and my kids and everything. And I come back a little fucked up in the head, you know, and that's okay. But you can still treat me bad. And when I present it to you that you're treating me bad, you're like, oh, go sit your ass down or whatever. That does bother me personally. And so I just say this whole thing about diversity, and I embrace it because it's about understanding different people, accepting them for who they are. And, you know, I just bring it back to the self, and I have my own philosophy, but the criminal justice system, excuse me, it just strips the identity of these minorities. And so, whereas we're not physically in chains, we have these institutionalized systems and we have these mental games. I just want people to wake up and get out your damn comfort zone. You know what I'm saying? It may sound corny, united we stand, divided we fall. That's why America is not getting great again for us. It ain't gonna never be great for us.
Was it great before though?
Well, it was.
No. I'm saying make America.
I
That's
think
another
after
conversation.
slavery,
We
it was
won't talk
good.
about that because
That's
you
a
a
that's
lot of
the
people told us. But
it was good at one time for people of color, like after slavery ended, when they were having their own businesses and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But it was like, oh no, we can't
Was it
have that.
great though? I understand that it was a little bit better than how it was before, but was it great? Has America ever been great for Black people?
It's
Let's be
been
clear.
good at times.
I think it's hard to answer that question because great is what you make it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it could be great for you and then terrible for your neighbor. I mean, it's kind of what you make it. But before we close, and I
Thank
kind
you.
of spoke on this earlier. This is why I do what I do, and this is why I take pride in what I do. Since I've started this, I've had 17. Well, to date, I've had 17 police officers removed from their job. Now, granted, I don't take pride in taking money out of somebody's pocket, but I would much rather take somebody's money out of their pocket before they can take another a life
Life.
out of a household.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
1000%.
I've had 17 police officers fired and moved from their job. I've saved to date, and if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, 27 people that were either wrongfully arrested or unlawfully detained. I've saved them from illegal incarceration. I've sat in on a lot of court cases with people, and I've sat down with a lot of people's attorneys and sat and talked to them, and we went over certain rights and certain laws. Right now I have 2 judges, and I won't say which state or which county they're in. There's 2 judges that's under investigation right now for stepping outside of their jurisdiction. And so I think that communities are a lot safer when you can get rid of the bad apples. And I know there's a lot of them that are still hidden, and I have a lot of work I have to do, but I do that because I take pride in it, and I don't, and I'm not just out here trying to save Black people. That's not my heart.
Right.
Like because John 3:16 said, "For whosoever believes in Him." So
Whatsoever.
if God died on the cross for anybody that believed in Him, then I think that anybody is worthy of being saved. And so
Absolutely.
I don't want people to just think I'm just pinpointing the Black community,
Mhm.
because I'm not. And so I do what I do with a heavy heart because everybody is worthy of saving. And if I can slowly but surely get rid of the bad cops and the cops with ill intentions, or the cops that can look at us and tell us that we don't care about your safety, and it's more about this thin blue line that we operate behind.
Mhm.
If I can help get rid of them, I honestly do feel like our cities would be safer.
Right.
And that's why I'm glad I don't do this alone. There's a lot of us across
Good.
America that do this, and I've helped jumpstart a lot of movements across America. And it's weird because people see me now and they want to take pictures and they want hugs and autographs and
Just today, right?
I know, right?
Yeah, I know,
And-
right?
and yeah, like how I
And
was bum
Wendy's.
rushing Wendy's, like it's crazy. People see me now and I'm like a celebrity to them, but back home I'm just that nigga that you went to school with. So
We
it's
was
weird.
talking
So I'm
about
saying,
that
like,
in the
it's
last
weird. that-
episode,
It's like
Yeah.
weird that like people back home still see me as DJ.
Right.
But when I'm somewhere else, I'm that guy from YouTube. I have to take a picture
Well, you're
with you
DJ
now.
to me. I mean, I appreciate what you do.
Yeah.
And, we've got to spend time with you since you've been here. We've been
Yeah.
hanging out and doing our thing. But you're just a human being that has a purpose and a passion, and you're
Absolutely.
doing it. You
Yeah,
know?
and
Absolutely.
I honestly do feel like this is what I was called to do. And
yeah.
and I know a lot of people hate when you get biblical on them, but honestly, like I honestly do feel like this is what because I have a way with words, and I feel like speaking to people is just something I was blessed to do. And
Mhm.
so being able to get out, and whether it's a positive conversation or a kind of a critical negative turn conversation, I
Mhm.
feel like there's a lot of education in it.
Absolutely.
And I've done a lot of educating, and I've been educated a lot because again I'm still learning, and each audit I learn something new,
Mhm.
and I'm willing to learn because I feel like that makes more of a man if you have ears to listen as much as you have a mouth to talk.
Absolutely.
And that's something my mom told me. You got 2 ears for a reason.
You
Mhm.
listen
2
more than
ears
you
and 1
talk.
mouth. And so that's something that I've been blessed to do is get out and relate to people and get out and talk. And not every situation that I'm in with police officers are negative.
Right.
You know, I've done ride along with chief of police. The officers in Charlotte are still waiting on me to email them to go sit down and talk with them and see what I can do about help fixing the city of Charlotte because it's real corrupt. And I won't say that just from a law enforcement standpoint. I mean, there's just a lot wrong with the city of Charlotte.
Mhm.
And I mean, so in like I do a lot of positive things, but those go unnoticed because people just want to talk about the negative side.
They
of things.
do. You
And
can do a million things good, and you do that one thing that's not good, and
they
that's what
never let
people
you
remember.
forget it.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of this, that used to burden. Like I wouldn't sleep at night. Like I would have nights where I just couldn't sleep, and like I've learned to pray and move past that because people are only going to remember what they want to.
Absolutely.
And I've prayed about it, but I'm not gonna stop doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm
Keep
doing.
it up, man.
Good for you.
And
Keep it
those who
up.
don't like it, they can just go to bed mad every night because I
Right.
don't care.
Well, DJ, I really appreciate you, just being here and just sharing your knowledge. And I really appreciate what you do when you're home because I watch your things. I'm like, this guy is crazy, but I love him, and I know it takes a lot of courage. So I appreciate you for educating me and educating us. And we do it different, but that's what this is about. You can lead the horse to the water, you can't make him drink it, right? And you do that. So I appreciate what you do.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Okay.
I just
My
thank you
guy.
for being here. And I don't know if you had something. Look into that camera. Now you can look and tell them what you would tell them.
Oh man. Oh boy, this is a tough part. Now, honestly, if it's anything that I really do want y'all to take with y'all is never be scared to do your job. Never. I mean, and I get that it's almost like a nonprofit thing because you don't always get paid for doing it. Keep them accountable. Make sure they're doing their job and never stop fighting a good fight. As long as you fight with good intentions, I think every fight is worth it if it's fought with good intentions. Um, Keep them accountable and do your job in loving them, and never let good behavior go unnoticed. Don't always speak on bad. Never let good behavior go unnoticed. So I think that as a community or as a nation, we do better if we stood together. So I think we need to do a better job of being united, and doing our part collectively. Because I think that a united nation is the most feared nation. So never feel left out. You're always in. Never give up the good fight. Thank y'all for having me.
Thank you. Turn on that music, boy. And thank y'all. I'm plugging it now. I need y'all. You finished watching this podcast. I need you to hit the like button, subscribe, follow, share, okay? We out of here.
There's no need to be shy. Just tell me what you like. Oh.